Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky.
And I am Leah.
And on this quick shot of romance, we are reviewing viral favorite, Welcome to the Dark Side by Giana Darling.
It is a viral favorite because Daddy Zeus, he trends a lot.
Well, he blew up on Book Talk over the summer. He was being recommended if you had a daddy kink or if you liked the age gap or the anti-hero. This was kind of up there with one of the big recs for that trope.
Although I did expect there to be more like daddy kink in the book, though. I was surprised and a little disappointed because I do like a daddy kink.
I do like a daddy kink also. So this is book 2 in the Fallen Men series by Giana Darling, which is her motorcycle club series. And Leah, will you read us the synopsis from Goodreads?
Of course I will. I was a good girl. I ate my vegetables, volunteered at the local autism center, and sat in the front pew of church every Sunday. Then I got cancer. What the hell kind of reward was that for a boring life well lived? I was a 17-year-old don't know what that word is. Paradigm. I do know that word. Sorry. Paradigm of virtue. And I was tired of it. So when I finally ran into the man I'd been writing to since he saved my life as a little girl, and he offered to show me the dark side of life before I left it for good, I said yes. Only I didn't know that Zeus Garro was the president of the Fallen Men, MC. And when you made a deal with a man who was worse than the devil, there was no going back. This is Daddy Zeus Garro's story from Lessons in Corruption, a standalone Indie Fallen Men series.
So this book was released April 18th of 2018. Tropes are motorcycle club, age gap, anti-hero, forbidden love, taboo. Put out percentage is 47%. It does have a slow burn feel to it.
It does.
And so, yeah, let's get into this. So I do want to say this was our buddy read for February. We encouraged all of our listeners, members of the Hive, to read this book and give us their thoughts so we could share them with you or questions they had. So we'll get to those a little later. I think right now, Leah and I are just going to break down the basics of the book for everybody before we get into some of the little idiosyncrasies that we either loved to hate, or absolutely hated. Because there are things, so many things. So let's talk first with their meet cute.
Well, it's kind of a meet chaos. They're in a parking lot at a church. They're at the church.
She is 7. Yeah.
They're 7. She is 7. And basically a shootout is occurring. And so her parents are hiding behind a car.
Her dad leaves her and drops to the ground and crawls away from her.
And curls into the fetal position. And here she is, 7 years old, just by herself. But she looks across the parking lot and she sees Zeus and she runs to him, runs full out. And he saves her.
He does.
The first time they meet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of sets the stage for the parents. It's Louise. Her name, the main female heroine's name is Louise. She goes by Lou or Lulu. Louise's parents are horrific. There is not one redeeming quality about them. Even later on in the book, her mother does a couple of things, and I don't find her to be redeeming at all.
No, because even at the end of the book, when her mom comes back, I'm like, I still don't like you. Just go away.
Yeah, go away. Okay, so let's talk about Lou a little bit as to who she is. So the way the book plays out is for the first, 15, 20%,
I think so.
So from the time Louise is 7, Zeus goes to jail for attempted murder of the man that shot him, who we later find out was his uncle because Zeus shot first.
Yes.
Zeus goes to jail. Louise, with the help of one of her nurses, helps her write letters, pen pal letters, to Zeus in jail because as a 7-year-old, and this was a realistic problem for me. 7-year-old letters do not read as mature as these letters did. I have children.
No. Well, and I have an 8-year-old currently. And while my 8-year-old she's pretty advanced, she does not write this way. Like she might speak out that way, but like she couldn't write a letter the way that Louise writes a letter.
Yeah.
But Louise is in the hospital. She's going through like cancer treatments and
she has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes. And so Zeus is her guardian monster and like helps her like deal through her treatments and through the fact that like she got shot, and that is how they discovered the cancer in the first place. But so her parents have checked out even more than they ever used to be. And so like he's kind of her sounding board for everything. And it is a little far-fetched in the way like the letters play out just from the verbiage in the letters. But it sets the stage for everything when they meet again.
Right.
Because there's a couple instances in the letters where Zeus is like, we can't write anymore. But it doesn't really ever happen until like a defining point.
At the age of 15 and a half, she's almost 16. He cuts off all communications with her. He feels like at this point, things are difficult and different. And because of her going in, maturity he cuts off communication with her. And it's his choice to do that. She's very upset about it. But go forward. The book now starts at like 16. Present day she is 16 and a half, 17.
She's 17.
Okay.
Yes. But she is basically created this second persona, but it's not really a persona. Like this is who she is and who she wants to be. And then, so this is Lulu, like this one, like girl who like works at the strip club, like in her spare time and does what she wants. And then Louise is the persona who's the cheerleader and the ballerina and the intelligent girl, but that's not who she truly is, like in the core of herself.
So, and you get the impression that she's an incredibly smart student. She's in advanced placement classes. They call them IB classes in this province of Canada that the story takes place in. So they're like college credit plus college placement classes for high schoolers. She also volunteers. She's also a student assistant to a teacher. And she does ballet. So like she is incredibly overachiever, high involved child, but 3 nights a week, she sneaks out of her house and works at a local strip club, cleaning tables. Well, she doesn't really start bartending until the club takes over the stripping.
Yeah, that's true.
She just busses tables. She's not a dancer at the club. She's just bussing tables. But again,
and she helps them with like their costumes and things like that. Cause she talks about like helping them change and sewing them into stuff and different things like that. So, but she's a very intelligent, like very like well-rounded human being.
Yeah. So then let's talk about Zeus. Zeus is 19 years older than Lulu. He has gone to jail for attempted murder on the president of his motorcycle club.
The previous president. After that happened, so he is the new president of the club. And he has his kids. He has King and Harley Rose.
And Harley Rose is the exact age of Lulu, and King is 1 year older than Lulu. And he talks about, and his ex-wife was a drug addict and a deadbeat, and he has zero use for her. So she's not even in play.
No.
So we're not going to, there are many people who do not like this book because of the way it starts.
Yes.
So we're going to kind of move forward from that and just go with her being 17-year-old and him being 19 years
36.
older than that.
Yep.
36.
Mhm.
There's a chance meeting between the two of them at a party, and then the fallen MC purchase the strip club that she works at.
Yes.
To diversify their portfolio.
I thought it was the funniest
I'm
statement
like,
ever.
Sure, okay.
I mean, it's true. I mean, they are diversifying, like buying into this club. But I was like, that's such a weird thing to say.
Yeah. It
Like
was
the
really
MC
weird.
is diversifying their portfolio.
Okay, so, and this book has been around for a while and people have read it. Was there anything stand out in the book? Because I want to get to our different community members that shared thoughts to help move our conversation. So was there anything you personally stood out for you?
I loved the relationship between Lou and Mute, who is one of the MC brothers, and he's basically like her guardian. So like all this stuff is happening, and you find out like throughout the book that Zeus is basically like known where Lou is, like, and has had somebody watching her throughout the years, even though he personally has no contact. Like he has been like making sure that she is okay because of reasons, but I don't want to tell you those reasons. You got to read about those reasons. But so Mute is on the spectrum, and he watches her and truly becomes one of her best friends because he's such a profound piece of the puzzle.
He was
this book.
He was the best character in the entire book.
Yeah.
Like him on the page overshadows everything else.
Yes. Every time he's on the page, like there are a couple moments. Well, and there's a moment like in the book where he says something, but he doesn't actually say it. But like he says it in such a way that like everybody knows like what is going on. But it's such a Mute thing to do. They're like, oh, maybe he does this on purpose.
And we are going to spoil this a little bit. So if you haven't read this book, you're going to want to pause, just skip forward to the end.
Yeah.
I was freaking pissed. Kindle,
I did not like it.
Pissed. Like Kindle throwing pissed that she killed him. She freaking killed him.
She does. And the way that she does it and who does it and how it happens, like when you find out like who does it, but although like when he meets his demise, it made me happy.
So mad. Okay.
Yeah, I was very like frustrated because I thought he would have been such a great character to have like throughout the story.
Yeah.
But
yes.
But at the same time, like it does work. Like it made me mad, but the situation that follows, it works.
Disagree.
But I would have liked it so much better if they would have kept him.
Yeah. Okay. So part of this episode is our buddy read aspect of it. So members of the community read this along with us, and they have sent in some of their insights. So let's start with Gretchen's first thought.
Okay. Gretchen's first thought is underlying religious themes in romance. And what do you think about it in dark, taboo, forbidden age gap in general, and then in this book?
I think it's a really religion in dark romance makes sense. It's the yin and the yang. It's the balance of the dark and the light. And
the good and the evil, like all that stuff. Yeah.
It creates angst all on itself. We've seen it with different books that have become popular over the last couple of years. You know, Sarah Simone has her whole series. You know, we see it in mafia romances. There sometimes will be like a religious aspect that Serena Ackroyd does it with her Filthy series that, you know, they all are seeking redemption through religion to make up for the fact that they shoot like 60 people every book. So religion and romance, dark taboo, I think, again, it helps create the dark and the light. It gives us the contrast, right?
Well, and it's one of those natural things because like you have the good church girl and like the bad like mafia guy, but they have this connection. It's like,
yeah. And I didn't find it. So in reference to this book, me personally, I think it becomes a non-starter, honestly, other than it just shows her family's status within the small community that they live in.
And I think that was more like the idea behind it, because it wasn't like, yes, she went to church every week. Yes, like her grandfather was the pastor.
But because it was expected, not because she was devout.
Yeah, like there wasn't like, I'm a good girl, like I have to do these things. Like he is corrupting me. Like every time I say that.
Every time. Okay.
But like from the beginning, like Lou is already like going to this like dark side because she's not happy with the way her life has been playing out up to that point.
And so Gretchen shared a quote that Lou says, I'd always believed that Christianity wasn't for everyone, that faith was special and intimate kind of thing that had occurred to you naturally and expresses itself through you organically. Now I knew what deity I'd pray to and died trying to please, Zeus Garro.
Yeah.
So for Lou, her religion becomes this man that she has kind of put up on a pedestal. You know, she's kind of said, he is my guardian monster. I know the evil that lurks in him, but I trust him with my soul and my life. But she doesn't. She really doesn't, because she's keeping a secret from him that annoyed me through it all.
It did. And when he finds out, he's pissed. So pissed.
He is pissed, but there were other inconsistencies in some of her behaviors that I just felt like it was a plot point in the story, but I don't know that it was necessary.
I don't think it was necessary, but I think with the way this story played out, like the fact that like she does like have him on this pedestal, but there's these moments where like he doesn't always open up in the way that she wants him to. So it's almost like she does it out of spite. Like, he's not opening up to me, so I'm not going to tell him these things. Like, he's not reciprocating like my trust, so why should I trust him with these things?
So Gretchen asks a question about age gap. Age gap would definitely love to hear what you guys think about the trope in general versus dark, taboo, and forbidden. Also, reverse age gap. The pool boy, Nikki Sloan, is on my TBR. Maybe even add a few of your own personal recs. Well, I love an age gap romance. It's one of my top tropes.
I like an age gap romance, and honestly, the size of the age gap does not really bother me.
It doesn't bother me, but I think that leads us to talk about the situation in this book that a lot of readers have issues with.
She is 17, and people have issue with that. But I will say that Giana Darling does like state in the book the age of consent is 16, like, which I personally like 16 would be no for me, but like 17, 18, it depends on the situation and the way that the story plays out, whether it's something that bugs me or not. In this situation, it did not, but I can see why people have issues with it.
I think if she took out the pen pal letters, or there was only one or two, and then communication between them stopped.
Yeah.
And then I think had she been 18, no one would gripe about this age gap.
Right.
And again, I looked it up. This book takes place in the British Columbia province of Canada. Age of consent is 16. You can marry legally at 16. Now, in this book, there is a situation where they decide to get married and her mom gives permission because you have to be 18 in that little community. But the province itself, age of consent is 16, which, so again, I don't think there would have been an issue for me had they just rounded her up 1 year, because it made no sense that working at a strip club and doing all this chaos, and still she's trying to do high school and her grades, and
it was a little far-fetched, but then at the same time, like it's a romance book. Like you don't always want the reality. Like you're reading this book to lose yourself in it. Like sometimes those like little far-fetched moments are okay with me.
Yeah. Gretchen also brings up the obsession with cherry lollipops. It made her think of Sophie Lark and the Strawberries, which, I mean, hello, Daddy.
Well, but the strawberries were not necessarily a good thing in the Sophie Lark, but it is reminiscent of the strawberry jam and eye candy.
Yes, it does add some sexy time to it. Can you read our thought from Jenna?
Yes. Jenna says, I have loved this book so far because she is still in the process of reading. Zeus has surprised me in a lot of ways. It's an intriguing storyline that I feel kept a steady pace. And that's the thing, like it's a long book, like you will need some time to read it. But it wasn't it was wordy, and I don't always love wordy, but it was consistent the whole way through. It wasn't like it didn't speed through and then all of a sudden like change pace.
Pacing was on par for this book. It was wordy throughout the entire book. Do I think that it was overly wordy in parts? Yes. And it was hard to turn off my editor's brain and being like, X out, don't use.
And I think that is one thing with you and I, like we both edit books, like, and so we have a hard time switching from editor to reader sometimes. And like, as like an editor, we're like, oh, we should take this out. We're like, this is the reasoning, like you should take it out. And if you have a valid reason for keeping it back in and you can talk me into that, like it makes sense. And since we don't have that part of it, it's a little bit tougher for us, but there were definitely parts that were wordy, but it was consistently wordy and the pacing was smooth. And like, there wasn't a change, which I really enjoyed.
So Hannah actually sent us in a voice memo.
Yes.
And so we are going to play that for you, and then we will come back and do our 3 questions and do all the good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. All the good stuff.
So, hey ladies, here I am. This is Hannah, also known as Smart, Sexy, and Smutty on Instagram and Book Talk, or TikTok rather. Recording this from the bathroom, which just seems to be the only place I get any sort of privacy these days. And here are my thoughts on Welcome to the Dark Side by Giana Darling. So when I first read it a year ago, it was like a straight up 5-star read. I was like hooked, and I loved the whole series, and it was incredible, and I was all about it. I reread it this week for the purpose of this discussion, and it's definitely not a 5-star read anymore, but it's still pretty awesome. I am obsessed with Zeus. I think he's an incredible character. I think that the premise is a little far-fetched now that I read it again, with him writing being pen pals with a 7-year-old girl. That sounds wild and crazy, especially one from prison. Not sure that's legit. But I do love their sort of interactions. I think the beginning part with the back and forth letters is pretty incredible and just so well written. And yeah, the aspects of it that are a little close to, I'm a fan of age gap, but she's really young. And I don't know why being 18 would make it so much more palatable, but for some reason it seems like it would. But yeah, she's super young. Although 36 really doesn't seem that old on his part. Me pushing 40, so I'm like, it's possible, but yeah, it's a little rough to get around the second time in. Otherwise, honest to God, my favorite part of this book is Mute. I fell in love with Mute as a secondary character. I was obsessed and in love. I loved his healthy eating. I loved his positivity. I loved his quietness. I loved that he could say so much without saying a word. And my heart broke. It broke. I have not recovered. I am broken, and I miss Mute, and I wish he was in every other book. I love him. So that is sort of my disorganized, jumbled thoughts on Welcome to the Dark Side. I'm happy to keep talking about it. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. I did love the rest of the series. You know, there are moments and things that I don't care for, but overall, I really enjoy them, and I do love MC romances, so it's hard for me not to like them. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Thanks for the buddy read. Take care. Bye.
I adore Hannah. She's so sweet.
She totally licks him. She licked me. He's his. He's hers.
Yeah. She cleaned him, bacon sandwiched him. He's like everything for her. But I do agree with her. I think that age gap is what holds people back. Off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so Leah, so as far as Jenna and Gretchen and Hannah, I asked them all three of our questions. So I will give those as we go through ours also. So, okay. Did you like the book? All three of them liked this book.
I did. I did not like it as much as some people hyped it up, but I did. I really did enjoy like the way the storyline played out. Like there were things that I wish were a little bit different and things that I would have changed had I mean, not that I would be writing this book because I can fix the words, but I can't write the words. Right. But there were definitely things like I think she should have changed in the storyline, but overall, like it was a strong story. It is one of her earlier books, and that is something to look at too.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of Daddy Kink or age gap romances that I like a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
I feel like there was really any Daddy Kink in this. Like she called him Daddy like once or twice, but like there really wasn't.
So I don't mean it like that. I guess I mean, I just think it was just too wordy is what really, because you would get connected to the character and then it felt like you had to go through 70 pages of words to get to the next moment. And it just kind of,
there was a lot.
It just threw things off for me. So who would typically like this book? According to Hive members, if you have to like the dark, the taboo, if you have read like Sophie Lark's, her books, or Katie Roberts O'Malley's, or Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, these all fit within that kind of dark taboo. So who, Leah, do you think would typically like this book?
Like if you like an angsty romance, because there's definitely a lot of angst, because there's some push and pull back and forth. Like we're not going to get involved. Like you can't touch me, like, and all this stuff. But so it's pretty angsty, and it is, I mean, you have to like the taboo because there's some, I mean, just the subject of the age gap is very taboo. And there are some really steamy scenes that are out there kinky wise, which I'm not disappointed in that.
So, and if you were a fan of Sons of Anarchy that was on TV a couple years ago, because this MC is making their money by selling pot and running drugs. So if you like that kind of series and are looking for books that are similar to read that are like that, then this is totally for you. If you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, that kind of taboo, dark, angsty, waiting for the next bad thing to happen, or a villain, this is definitely a book for you. So would you recommend this book? All three of our members said that they would absolutely recommend this book.
I think it would depend on the person, whether or not I would recommend it to them. Because there's definitely people that like I know that would not like this book. I don't think it would be the book for them. But there are some people that we know, like through book Instagram, that would really enjoy this book.
Yeah. I agree with you. So if you would like to leave us a voice memo on a book or on an author that we have reviewed for a quick shot of romance or had on an episode, you can do that by sending it to the bees at bookcaseandcoffee.com, and we might just add it to an episode. You do need to keep them to 60 seconds or less. Anyway, Leah, thanks for reading Welcome to the Dark Side.
It was a good read. This is my first Giana Darling book, so I was interested to see what the hubbub is about. And I will give her another try. Like
she does anti-heroes.
I do like an anti-hero, and I did like her writing style. It's just a little long, but that's okay.
Anyway, until next time, everyone.
Happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.